Climbing. It embodies passion, creativity, commitment, adventure, and community. Evolv athletes live this every day, on the rock, in the gym, and on the road.
For me, I've always been a creative person. I think I've always liked drawing, and I mean, even for me, climbing is totally connected to that. You know, climbing for me is like my main creative outlet. And I guess, you know, in that way, shoe design has become a big creative outlet for me as well.
Well, one of the reasons I've really enjoyed working with Evolv is it's not just because the shoes are good and are helping me with, you know, what I want to climb. It's also being able to test them and give feedback and feel that the feedback gets incorporated in the shoes.
What I feel like the biggest thing that I can offer to the shoe company, to Evolv, is putting the shoes on my feet and going climbing in them. So that's what I, you know, that's what I want, and I want more of that, you know.
Being involved actually in designing a shoe is super fun. I mean, I've given feedback to other companies, you know, years and years ago, but this is like actually, you know, coming in at the ground level, trying to figure out something that's, well, that isn't even in the line. It's a different type of a shoe.
Well, I think it's great that an athlete, especially such a high-profile athlete who's been climbing his whole life, is developing shoes. I mean, it makes sense that, you know, someone who's pushing the limits of climbing would be like giving the feedback and saying what he wants. So he's got, I mean, some amazing things coming out.
For me, it's taken years actually just to kind of understand, for me, what is the ultimate climbing shoe, you know. So you know, it went from, you know, tweaking the Chaos and creating the Pontas, and tweaking the Pontas and creating the Optimus, and now we're, you know, 5 years later, we're really at a whole nother level, you know. And it's really exciting to see just the, you know, just the level of quality, craftsmanship, materials, and, you know, design, you know.
At the moment, I've been climbing in the Gatos a lot, as well as the Bandits. Those are like my two favorites. Yeah, you know, I didn't really know what to expect when I came on in terms of product development. I worked with some other companies in the past with product development, and it was very minimal. It was just like, and you never really saw your ideas in action, in product. So I was, you know, I've been pretty psyched to actually feel that my feedback is getting used.
Oh, it's like super exciting, and it, not just to be on the phone a little bit, but face to face, you know, having something in your hands and tweaking it around and trying to come up with something that is the best thing that you can think of is, yeah, it's pretty much fun, yeah.
The Gato is actually fitting me in the heel, and because of the three straps, it's sucking really well up into the arch of my foot. Because in the past, when you put your shoes on and then you take 2 steps to get to the base of the climb, and it would just like suction away from my arch, and then the heel would pull out a bit, and I'd have this dead space in the back. So I'm pretty excited to be able to have a slightly larger shoe on now, and have my heel stay in place. It's like fitting really well.
You know, a lot of the times when companies make samples, clothing, shoes, they're not 100% production. They're still in a tweaking phase, and you never know. Maybe the fabric is going to be different, maybe something, you just don't know. There's a lot of question marks. The basics are there, and I was a little nervous about wearing them up the whole route. I mean, 1,000 meters is a lot of pitches. And put them on my foot, or didn't wear them for the first 3 pitches, and then brought them up the rest of the way, and was super psyched that I brought them.
The shoe that we're working on, at least it has the tentative name of the Astroman.
They're the Astroman. They're made for like long, sustained trad climbing.
Well, the name Astroman is from a route in Yosemite, and it was probably the first real big wall free climb there. Historically, it has like a huge part, well, in Yosemite history. It was, when it was first done, you know, hard 511 was pretty much the top grade in Yosemite, and it had like 5 pitches of 5'11" and a whole bunch of 5'10", and no matter what, it goes just up at this really impressive wall. It's like this 1,500-foot wall, and most of the other climbs around there are big wall climbs where they use aid climbing to get up. So historically, it's as far as big wall free climbing, it's maybe the most famous of all the Yosemite climbs, and it kind of epitomizes the traditional climbing. Aspen is significant to me partly because on my first trips there, I was just so overawed by it. And then I was finally able to do it with a rope, and then some years later, it felt like a reasonable thing to go and try to do it without a rope, and it was certainly one of the biggest breakthroughs, I guess, that I've had. Just, it felt like, not like an outer space, but just like a whole another level of fun. Just kind of like what I got into climbing in the first place for. It was just, yeah. The Astroman is a traditional type shoe, so it needs to do a number of things that, say, for some sport climbing shoe, you don't really need to do that. For instance, protecting your ankle. You want a shoe that kind of protects your foot when it goes into a crack, so it needs to be stiff enough so that it'll still edge well.
What's the first thing that pops into your head when I say first round, first minute? First thing that pops in my head is just what a good route, Like now I can finally enjoy the whole thing, because I mean it's kind of like that, It's like it was like an epic, It's the same thing like if you get benighted on a big wall or something. Me and my friend Sterling, we got benighted on the Incredible Hulk when I was 17 or something. We slept at the top, and we were suffering so bad. And somewhere down the line, we're gonna laugh about it, enjoy it after the fact, right? And so it's kind of the same thing with a little, 40-foot sport route. It gave me a lot of difficulty. It was really hard. It really, it really pushed me physically and more than anything mentally, because I had got to the point where I was really close to being able to do it a long time ago. And for one reason or another, the stars didn't align. I fell over and over again at the very last move. I fell like over 50 times at the last move, and it was just got to the point where it was so ingrained to fall at the last move that I didn't know how to not fall at the last move. But it can be really, really taxing psychologically to get beat up on the same route for 2 years straight, falling at the last move, and kind of felt, like I was beaten, like I felt like, well, maybe I won't do this route, I kind of confronted failure a little bit with it, and maybe that's a huge lesson in and of itself, just to learn how to, not need to always complete my project, And I was just climbing one day with a buddy of mine, and we were climbing in a different spot altogether, and it just happened that it worked out that, there was a really nice, crisp air blowing in the afternoon after we were already done climbing. It was like, why don't we just go check it out and see how it goes? And to not get stressed out about it, I was just like, yeah, just for training, just to train a little bit, I'll get on it. And for me, that was the time that it all clicked, that I wasn't really worried about sending it. I didn't even think I was gonna, I wasn't even trying to send it. It was just like I was over it. I didn't care if I sent it or not, and I was free because of that, just to be myself and climb and be free in the moment. And that's like when it all came together, having that open mind and just not really being afraid to fail, just letting it go, and just climbing from a place of just joy and enjoyment, rather than like fear or something like, oh my gosh, am I going to send it? I really want to send it, and what if I don't send it? And all these like thoughts that can creep into your head, that can just hinder you from sending. First round, first minute is definitely one of the most rewarding projects I've ever sent by far, because it was such an effort. It was such a it was such a long process, and I don't know, a lot of people would be like, oh, you must just be relieved to get that thing over with. But actually, like, it was just one of the most satisfying, like, best feelings to finally send it, so.
I've lived in Bishop about 15 years. I can't really consider living virtually any other place, because here you've got the winter climbing down the valley bottom, the bouldering and sport climbing, and then in the summer you can go up into the high country and get onto the peaks.
Initially I came to Bishop for the climbing, and actually it was for the bouldering. And it took a lot to kind of have it feel like home, because it is such a remote place with a very different mix of people living there. But now, after learning that I could, go into the mountains in summertime, I can go sport climbing, go bouldering, it's really definitely feels like home.
I really like basing out of Boulder just because of the community, for one. I have a lot of really good friends, and the climbing gyms are nice, and it's this aspect of, I travel a lot throughout the year. I go on all sorts of trips around the US and around the world, really. And it's always nice to come home and know that you have a community, and know that you have good rock climbing, Good rock climbing and a good climbing gym to train at is kind of what's been really important to me, and why I haven't left Boulder in a lot of ways, because I still have projects in Boulder,
What's your least favorite thing about living in Bishop?
I don't have a least favorite thing about living in Bishop. It's just super killer.
For me, the downside of living in Bishop, I'm a girl. There's really no shopping. So that's the only downside. You have to order everything online.
I'm sure many climbers have been in that situation where it's like trying to find where is the best place to live if you're a climber, After 10 years of being on the road, for me, I was just like, I had so many great experiences, and that totally shaped me, has shaped who I am, just traveling and living out of my backpack. But it got to this point where I wanted to kind of, create a home base for myself, and create a community around where I am, and not just be a different place every week and be so spread out. I wanted to kind of focus my energy in one place, and so I was kind of trying to find that place, like where is the place to live if you're a climber. I think when it comes down to it, though, there isn't a perfect place. It's just like finding a place that works for you, and that has so much to do with like being in the right place at the right time, the right people, and somehow it all clicks.
Living in Bishop, coming up from the south, have you ever stopped and had the fresh jerky? Or the really good beef jerky?
The one you pass on 395?
Yep.
I've never stopped at the jerky place. It's funny, when you live here, you just like, I want to get home. So no, I've never stopped and bought the fresh jerky. I've almost stopped to get, they had like local honey there as well, and they said olives. Couldn't have been growing them right there. Wow, thank you. Isn't that, the visitors stop and
Is that the place from Bishop?
Yeah, I guess really good cowboy beef jerky.
It is. No, seriously, it is really good jerky. They
Should we
actually got it pretty figured out there.
Fresh jerky.